Hello and welcome, fellow bookworms and film fans. Welcome to this month's episode of the Consented Narrative book to film adaptation. We'll be looking at something from my H.G.Wells collection. We're looking at The Invisible Man. Now, as mentioned, it was written by H.G.Wells and published in 1897, and it was then adapted to screen a few times over the years, but I'll be looking at the 1933 version. Now, as usual, we'll be looking at three things: how good is the book, how good is the film, and how well does the film take from the book. Now, the first thing that I'll start with is the film. Sorry, I accidentally locked the Kindle there, and I'm not very good at memorizing things, so a lot of my notes on like the plot is on the Kindle. So we'll start with the film. So I'd never seen The Invisible Man before. I'd never seen any connotation of The Invisible Man. I mean, I suppose I did see him on like The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but I wouldn't say that that's a really a great adaptation because he's just the character. But so this film, it basically it starts with this stranger covered in bandages, the top hat, the jacket, the coat, and he turns up at this inn and he demands privacy and he wants to be left alone, and obviously people can't leave him alone. He loses his temper, and we find out he's invisible. We find out he's Dr. Griffin, and he's accidentally turned himself invisible, and he's trying to find a way to turn himself back visible, and he's just a murderous bugger. Like, he really, really is. Like, it's quite funny because at one point you get one of the other characters go, oh yeah, and it says that he used this, and if you use this it induces madness in someone, and I'm like, yeah, he murder a lot of people. And it just kind of it follows his story, and it follows kind of like him trying to at one point he then tries to get the help of Dr. Kemp, and he's like, I want to now take over the world. And it's like, hang on a minute, you've gone from being invisible to wanting to take over the world. And he's like, a reign of murder and terror. And it's the special effects, I will say that now, the special effects, to say it's 1933 and it's an invisible man, do stand up. There's a couple of times when you can kind of tell it's a green screen. You're like, okay. But the majority of the special effects are really, really good. And I quite enjoyed it. And the only thing that I will say is the female counterpart, the one that was sweet on him, the one that they had a little bit of a thing with, when she realizes that, they found him again, but he's invisible, she's like, it's okay, I still love you. Oh, he's killed a constable, I still love you. He's killed loads of men, he's derailed a train, he's done this, and that. Oh, I still love you. It's like, come on, your unconditional love needs to draw a line somewhere. But it's fine, writing women back then wasn't exactly their best, their best female characters, but it was an enjoyable film, and I think it gets a 7 out of 10 from me. It's not one that I'm gonna go back and rewatch. It's not one I'm gonna go, oh, do you know what I really fancy is rewatching The Invisible Man? But watching it, I quite enjoyed it. And if you can get to watch it, because I know it's not on any streaming services, if you can get to watch it, I'd say give it a go, but I probably wouldn't go out of my way to find it and watch it. So the book. Now, I have previously done a couple of H.G. Wells adaptations on here already. I've done The Time Machine and I've done War of the Worlds, so now I've got The Invisible Man, and I enjoyed the War of the Worlds. The Time Machine was a little bit hit and miss, but I didn't mind it. But The Invisible Man book, at times it just dragged for me. I mean, there's a whole bit when he starts explaining kind of like what had happened, why it happened, and going through these great details of everything that he's done, and I didn't care. And it's only 126 pages, so it's not a particularly long book. It might be a little bit longer or shorter depending on the size that you get, because obviously mine's quite tall, so if you've got a shorter version it might be longer, if that makes any sense. If you've got a shorter version it might be thicker. But yeah, so it was just a case of like, I wasn't hooked with it. Like, I liked the fact that it follows Dr. Griffin, the Invisible Man. He turns up in this village. He basically just wants to be left alone. That's the one thing that I will say, is he just wants to be left alone, and if people could leave him alone, he might not have gone a little bit crazy. But he then gets kicked out of his lodgings. He then enables the help of a tramp. He then finds Dr. Kemp, and he doesn't kill as many people, and I'll be discussing the full version of the plot. He doesn't kill, I don't think he kills anyone, to be fair. And it's basically him just going from, I want to become visible again, to, world domination, because why not? That's the logical next step. And there's no female, like, love interest in this at all. It's just based around Dr. Griffin and he's turning invisible. And to say it was 126 pages, it took me so long to read because I just wasn't interested in jumping back in and reading it anymore. So I would say I wouldn't 100% recommend it. But then again, you know, there's certain sci-fi things that I'm not a huge fan of, but other people might enjoy. So you might enjoy reading H.G.Wells' Invisible Man. If you've already read H.G.Wells' The Invisible Man, please leave it below in the comments and let me know if you enjoyed it or not, because I don't want to disparage and go, oh, it was a horrific piece of work, because it was written really well and the characters were really good. But personally, I wasn't enjoying the story, and it did take a little bit longer to get through it than I would have expected for such a short amount of pages. So it'll probably get a 4 out of 10 from me, and I probably will not be rereading it. But I will still be going through the rest of the collection, you know, because as I said, like, it's not, you can't love every piece of work, but that's just my opinion. So now, spoiler alert, if you've not seen The Invisible Man, read The Invisible Man, you don't know anything about The Invisible Man, turn off now and come back when you're ready. So we'll be discussing the plot in its entirety, and again, just gonna make a note of my notes. So they both start pretty much the same. You get a stranger fully covered from head to toe, turning up at an inn on a snowy night, getting a room and basically wanting just completely left alone. Don't come in, wants complete privacy. That's it. And he's fully bandaged. The landlady at one point thinks she glimpses the missing part of his face, so like a hole where his face should be, but it's too quick, so she's not 100% sure and just carries on about her day. But the locals are getting nosy. Like, they're a little bit like, what's this man? What's going on with him? Like, blah, 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 blah. Now, in the book, we have several strange occurrences around Ipping, like people being robbed, things going missing, you know, things where you'd think there would be someone, but there wasn't. And in the film, this doesn't really happen too early, but we've gone back to Dr. Kemp and Dr. Cranley, who are bemused by the sudden disappearance of Dr. Jack Griffin. And Dr. Cranley's daughter is going, where's my love? And it kind of goes to them going, we don't know where he is. He's gone missing. He vanished into thin air. We don't know. This never really happens in the book at all. Like, we don't get Dr. Cranley. We don't get the love interest. We do get Dr. Kemp, but in a completely different situation. Now, in both, his bill's now been unpaid for about a week or so. So they're now trying to get him out. So the landladies now want him gone. He's too weird. He's too strange. Don't want him here. Get rid of him. In the book, the gentleman, who we know as Dr. Griffin, unravels the bandages, showing he is invisible in front of everybody in the inn and the landlady, and chaos ensues. But in the film, it's when a cop has been called that he reveals his curious problem to the copper and the people in the room, and then escapes through the building. Now, in both, he's obviously got to be completely stark naked to be invisible. And he gets away, but he causes havoc as he goes because, you know, he's invisible. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He kicks a couple of people, you know, steals a couple of things. So in the book, as he's escaping, he realizes that actually he needs help because he can't be invisible all the time. And when he's got the bandages, he's becoming a little bit more noticeable than he would like. So he enlists the help of a tramp called Mr. Marvel to be his aide. In the film, he goes to Dr. Kemp, who is an old friend of his, and he seems a lot more deranged. But just deranged at this point. Like, he's kicked a couple of people, but he's not killed anybody yet. So in both, he then goes back to the inn and he retrieves his books and his belonging, like, you know, with his experiment notes and everything in it, by the use of his aide, so Dr. Kemp, Mr. Marvel. Now, in the book, once he gets his notebooks, the tramp then escapes and he causes more havoc. The Dr. Griffin causes more havoc, kicks a couple more people, causes a bit more issues. In the film, as he's escaping again with the books being dropped out the window, he hears people say that the Invisible Man is a hoax. So he causes havoc in the inn and then he ends up killing a constable. So now it's his first murder in the film. Nothing. He doesn't kill anyone in the book. Well, debatable, but no outright kind of. In the book, he is chasing the Trump and gets caught in another brawl and gets clipped by a bullet. So he's chasing the Trump because the Trump decided, so Mr. Marvel decided to steal the books and steal the money that Dr. Griffin had stolen. So he's then chasing the Trump, and when he tries to apprehend the Trump, he gets clipped by a bullet. Then he goes and stumbles into this house, and it turns out to be Dr. Kemp. Now in the film, they're back at the house after they've killed the constable, and Dr. Kemp calls the police and Dr. Cranley to let them know that Dr. Griffin is ensconced in his home. Now, in the book, we now find out that the Invisible Man is Griffin, someone who Kemp knew a long time ago. But in the film, we kind of figured it out pretty early because it goes, where's he gone? And then it jumps back to the Invisible Man. So Dr. Kemp ends up offering help and refuge to Griffin for the night. He's quite wary, but he's also kind of like, I'm quite intrigued to find out what your story is. But he does send for help anyway, in a way of going, there's somebody here that shouldn't be, and I think it's the Invisible Man guy you're looking for. In the film, Dr. Griffin sees his old flame and then escapes again from the police, killing several people as he terrorizes the English countryside, derails a train. He goes on a murderous rampage, essentially. And he also vows to kill Kemp for turning him in. Now, in the book, Griffins need to research and everything like that. And you get this whole backstory of what happened, how it happened, how we came to understand the invisibility. And it turns out that this killed his dad, but he didn't kill his dad. His dad killed himself. And you don't get any of this in the film. So we get Kemp and Griffin in the book discussing how he became invisible and all the years of work that he put into it. Whereas in the film, it seems like he accidentally kind of stumbled. It didn't seem like it was something he was working on for years. It seemed like it was something he was working on maybe for months. So in the in the film, Kemp is now put into police protection to try and catch Griffin. However, it doesn't work out because Kemp gets taken to the police station, goes out the back. Dr. Griffin is a lot smarter than people think, understands that Kemp's gonna come out of the back of the police station, ends up in the same car as Kemp and kills him. So Kemp is now dead. Goodbye, Kemp. In the book, Griffin is showing his madness. He's now starting to show his madness as he now outlines his plans to rule by terror and murder with Kemp helping him. However, Kemp has betrayed him. So Kemp is a betrayer in both. So in both, the hunt for the Invisible Man has taken over everything. So everybody's hunting for the Invisible Man. And they try to plan what can be done to catch him. In the book, we get the first... Oh, I do apologise. We do get an actual murder in the book committed by Griffin. I stand corrected. I must have just blocked that from my memory. This is why I have notes. So in the book, Griffin has killed the person that Kemp called for aid. He's now laid Kemp's house under siege, determined to kill him. Kemp flees and is pursued by Griffin. In the film, Griffin is under siege in a barn. As he's sleeping, someone alerted the police, so he's completely surrounded. In the book, both Kemp and the others catch and assault him, which somehow causes his death. And as he dies, he becomes visible again. So the film ends, he gets shot and dies in hospital, which causes him to become completely visible, and his missus is still sat there going, oh, I still love you, oh, it's such a shame that it turned out this way, the madness wasn't your fault, which is how it ends. But the book ends with the Trump becoming a landlord and still having the books of Griffin's works, and basically using all the money that he stole from Kemp, and no one else knows about, that he stole from Griffin, and no one else knows about it. So that's how it ends. So as you can see, the two plots are very, very different. So they both start the same and they've both got the basic premise, but then it starts going completely different directions with the plot. So the film has a love, an old mentor of his appears, he kills loads of people, he kills Kemp, who's a trusted colleague. In the book, none of that happens, but you get a lot of background with what's happened and how he got there. Kemp is someone he knew from years back. You know, he only kills kind of one person. So you get a lot more exposition in the book as well than you do in the film. So for the book to film adaptation, the plot, how well does the film take the plot of the book? I would say it gets 3 out of 10 because it is quite a bit different. Now, as I said, if you agree or disagree with anything that I said, if you did enjoy the book, The Invisible Man, please leave it below in the comments. Let me know. I never say that my word is law. I never say that, oh yeah, this book is shit, this book is great. I love to hear people's different opinions of the books that I recommend. So please let me know what you think of it. But remember to always keep it contento.